Hi everyone. Happy to see all of you and welcome back to today's session organized by VODAN Africa. My name is Putu and our highlight today, I will put the agenda on the chat box. So our agenda today is, the first agenda is reflection of about the program of presentation, where we are now, and will be followed by fundraising update and also the finance update, and then about the special issue, and then update on FODANA meetings yesterday and also the country progress. And the last agenda is about implementation of agreement and timelines. As always, try to keep your mic muted during presentation to prevent background noises. And if you have any question, you can raise your hand or type the question in the chat box. Now I will hand over to you, Prof. Miriam, to lead the session. Prof. Miriam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Putu. First of all, I hope you had a good move and good holidays and that you are well rested, Putu.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Prof. Miriam.
Good, good. It's good to have you back. I see Professor Francesca is here. She was on a big trip in the United States and Europe, etc., etc. So, Francesca, maybe we can start this meeting by having a look back at all of those meetings that we have had. Of course, we all know that the timeline was one where we were very much focused on delivering the key minimum viable product and then followed by very high level presentations. You did many, I also did many. We did one together and we won an award. That a whole phase of presentations has gone well. And I think we need to recognize that. And today is really the first possibility after all of that running around that we can reflect on that. So let me hand over to you, Professor Francesca, to give a
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. It's really been an exciting and busy time for us as the coordinating team of VODAN Africa. A month of May, and on 30th of May, we had the presentation at the Global Impact in Health Symposium at the Leiden Biosciences Center. And it was a huge event. There were so many initiatives, but there were 5 in our session, 4 international from big firms in Europe and big research institutes. And then we had the VODAN Africa. We had the VODAN Africa presentation as well, and we were voted the most impactful initiative. It was well received. We had so many people coming to Professor Miriam, the VC, and I, and the rest of our team expressing the willingness for collaboration. We also have one of the vice presidents of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Melinda from Seattle. In her own presentation, she actually referred to VODAN Africa. I mean, she hasn't heard of us, but having heard of our presentation, and we had a prior dinner and had spoken about the initiative. She was so impressed, and I had a brief meeting with her after all. So generally, it was an excellent outing. And we also use that opportunity to showcase the talents in Africa and our graduate students in Europe, Aliyah, Putu, Esther, Tia, and everyone else. We had the opportunity to showcase what you have had to co-creatively build for Africa. And there was also that recognition of VODAN Africa as being the only successful so far implementation of machine actionable data fair in the context of COVID-19. And they also appreciated how we're able to move to 88 African countries, despite all the challenges of the COVID-19 and everything. After that, I moved to Italy, where Professor Miriam and the VC continue in Brussels, consulting on behalf of VODAN Africa. And we're looking at the option of partnership of starting the first IBM supercomputing center in partnership with KIU. So that discussion is continuing. I have submitted the proposal on behalf of KIU and VODAN Africa. Unfortunately, we're able to demonstrate that we have the capacity, because I spoke about what we're able to achieve even during COVID-19 in VODAN Africa, and it was so impressive. And that actually gave that proposal a huge boost. So we're hoping that in addition to our Data Stewardship Competence Center for Africa, we'll also be able to host the Supercomputing Center or Quantum Computing Center for IBM, the first in Africa. After that, I moved to New York to attend the EduData Summit with Professor Janice, the DVC of KIU, and she, as the only Black, the only African presenter at that big event. The event was held at the United Nations. The two of us were the only Africans, not even South Africa was represented. And we used the opportunity to speak about the NUFIC project and then the VODAN Africa project and the data stewardship portion, especially of VODAN Africa, and then how the Tunisia project as well, talking about edu data and research data. And we explored the concepts around the development of the FAIR curriculum by VODAN Africa in NUFIC. That was also well received. And Professor Janice and I will receive the number of interest and collaboration. So I'm working with her to see how we can harvest those interests and see the ones that goes directly to KIU and the one that goes to VODAN Africa as well, and the ones we jointly manage. And it's also good because VODAN Africa, like the logo, was on the United Nations board as part of the highlights of the event. So it was quite a good one. Then after the event in New York, I had to go to the Central State University in Zenaya, Ohio. And I had the opportunity of speaking on the FAIR Data Science project using VODAN Africa as a reference. In fact, if Obina had checked that week, there will be a lot of traffic on the VODAN Africa website because everybody just kept on going to see and to check. And a lot of people also followed us on Twitter. So it was a very eventful week and an opportunity for people to appreciate the contributions of researchers of the Ministries of Health in Africa, and then the Leiden University Medical Center, the FMO, the Philips Foundation, and all those who have supported us. And it was really also a moment for them to appreciate the fact that the graduate students from Africa and then from Kazakhstan, from Indonesia, they didn't go to Europe and then forget about their roots, but we're still actually solving home-based problems. So it was a very good recognition that our graduate students who are in Leiden and Tilburg, they were actually still thinking about solving African problems, which is a very exciting thing to everybody. And finally, we came back to Brussels for the EDD. I'm sure Professor Miriam will be able to speak more on that later. Even though VODAN Africa specifically was not detailed to speak, but she graciously found a way to slot us into one of the big talks in the big auditorium. And I had the opportunity to speak about our work in VODAN Africa and how that has translated into capacity building in Africa, and especially in Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, and then in Tigray. So those are basically my updates. I'm putting together my reports and I will send that to Obina so Obina can put it in a format that will fit into our website to actually recap the month of a month voyage taking VODAN Africa across 4 continents, 5 events from Africa to Europe, to America, back to Europe and back to Africa. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you very much, Francesca, and big applause to that fantastic work. Really, really very impressive. And the work in Brussels also went really very well. We had myself and the VC had a lot of meetings, including with the president of the Leiden University. We discussed VODAN as one of the key projects for the university. We had meetings that you attended, Professor Francesca, with the Global Health Policy team at the European Commission. That is going to be followed up further, including in inserting the work that we have done and the work on FAIR in the global health strategy. We also met with the ACP, the group that works with the European Union, the Africa, Caribbean and Pacific countries. And we also had meetings with Philips, and we presented at NWO and ZonMW, the Dutch science institutes. So a lot of recognition, a lot of appreciation, and a lot to build on further. So maybe I can first now also refer to Vice Chancellor who is here, Professor Pezamihigo, to give his, sorry, to give, I don't know, something happens, to give your impression on the on this phase of outreach that we have now behind us, with 6 weeks in which we have really gone out as a leadership team. Professor Francesca, myself, and under your leadership to showcase where we are in the project, sir.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Netherlands Belgium team, if you allow, I can call it that. We had so many volunteers and the ones who were actually driving and coordinating the all the trips. Actually, we did 2-in-1 trips, because 3 weeks before last week, we had been to the Netherlands and also to the European Union Commission, and then we returned for the EDDs, but again scheduled to create these very strong partnerships and bridges. But the point of intersection which really sank in my mind, for which I also think is a very good connection point, is the fact that the intertwining of that DISH project, which is supported by NUFIC, actually works hand in hand with the capacity building within the VODAN project. And so that was really, really fundamental. The second thing is that both public and private organizations and institutions have now embraced the entire concept of data science for health. And the VODAN project is really being showcased. I remember the last the last meeting we attended, Professor, where we entered the reception area, and the video that was playing the music of our VODAN recording video. That was the most amazing one. And it was, and you were putting on the same jacket actually, which is very interesting. And so it was like you had just recorded it that day. And the hustle you had gone through. So it's all showcasing, and the capacity, the need for additional data stewards. Professor Francisca, there are very serious commitments we made and we pronounced, and we need to actually bring on board supporters and promoters that can help us to drive this project to the next level by expanding on the capacity within the African continent, but also the European community would like also to showcase. Number 3, we found out with Professor Miriam, especially with our meeting with Hans and the colleague he brought from Philips. It was so amazing to find out that even within the East African community, within the East African countries, Tanzania, Kenya, and so on, there is a lot that is going on in terms of data for health is concerned. And there are so many micro and mini companies and organizations that are spread all over who are not necessarily doing what we have done. And somehow we need to network with them, and also without being swallowed, but benchmarking and also understanding exactly, especially the architecture, which Professor Miriam explained excellently well in that oval-shaped room. Professor Miriam, I cannot forget the design of that room. I hope I can have one in my school or in my university with all those access cards that you require to access those facilities. So that is really something that really sunk in my mind, and that what we are doing, we do not even understand yet the potential in it and the capacity. Last but not least, we were able to position ourselves very, very well in the EU networks, that what we need is now a very strong implementation unit or team that should actualize some of we shouldn't be left behind. Already our presence is realized. And so for the Open Science Directorate and also Capacity for Development Directorate and partnerships, I think we need to now make very serious follow-ups so that we are able to position ourselves for funding proposals. Of course, there are additional collaborations. I don't know whether Professor Miriam had communicated, because I just joined a few minutes later when Francisca was talking. There are opportunities for KIU, Leiden, and University College London for partnerships in postgraduate programs for health professionals and healthcare management. But I also think that all these are going to be intertwined with our access to health facilities already in Africa, the 88 facilities. And also we were able to showcase with Professor Miriam. By the way, while having a cup of coffee on a very busy motorway, we branched off and we held a Zoom meeting to discuss the future of our relationships. And we were talking about VODAN and also the DISH projects. So this is all great. Francisca, we missed you, but I think this briefing will suffice to update you. Thank you so much, Professor Miriam.
Thank you very much, VC. So let me ask whether there are any questions or comments from the floor. If there is nothing, then I would like to ask Dr. Reginald to brief us on the work of the country coordinators in the time of our absence.
Yeah, good afternoon, Professor, and thank you, Professor VC and Professor Francisca, for this wonderful update. And what I'm picking from there is this collaboration with other universities, institutions, potential supporters. And one of the questions that keeps up coming up from health facilities is how to be linked to improve their own infrastructure. So this will be a big step forward. So in the last few weeks, we have been dealing with the question of, first of all, deployment, how each country is moving along with deployment. Very good progress there. I think Putu has a very good report. And then the second question was about what we're calling the matrix of evaluation, how we are growing. And this was done by the Mekele team to help us evaluate each step we move, that we are making some progress. And some of the issues that were coming out were perhaps the deployment would have shortages or disadvantages due to lack of electricity or lack of power. So how do we go about that? And there was a very interesting feedback from Nigeria on that issue. Then there was also a very good feedback from Mekele itself, where they're using solar energy to power the computers despite the blockage and the lack of internet connectivity, but they found a way of connecting. So what are the teething problems that affect deployment? And then how do we respond as VODAN? That has been the key question, and I see it also in the main charts. Then the last one was always about the agreements, because the agreement need to be signed and sent back. Very good progress on that, especially from Uganda, Nigeria, a lot of progress in Mekele group in Kenya. We're still waiting for the two hospitals to send back their agreements. And so that's where we are, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reginald. Any further updates from the floor? I'd like to ask a question. I see that there is Dr. Reginald and Mariam and Bernard. I don't see the other country coordinators. We are going to soon reach a very important crossing point. And it is something like, you know, you have tried to make your recipes and you're opening up a big cake shop. And the recipes are brilliant and you're hiring the shop. But at that point, we also need to have the cakes to sell. So the question that is really, I think, important that we are starting to reflect on is how do we finalize properly the deployment so that we can build the next phase properly on that. And I would say that that would include the full deployment, which includes the installation, the signing of the contracts, and also the production of the data. And I think we have worked in the presentation so far very well with the deployment that was successfully done in the first stage. But I'd like to maybe ask Kawu, how do you see that we are really finalizing the phase of the deployment properly?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we are doing very well in terms of getting even the hospital in the right mindset and frame to produce this data. To start with, the systems are all now at the facility, and most of them are being used, and we have even the data steward pay some visits to provide technical support where technical issues, you know, come up, and when need be, we of course check with Oluwole. But at this time, I think that phase is nearly completed. I know also that progress on the signing agreement, it has been dragged by the ministry because they said they need to double check with their legal department and all of that, but it's still being pursued, and we hope to come to conclude. We'll come to conclude on that very soon. At our meeting yesterday, we had a meeting, and I think one question really strikes me, which is where are we going forward with? I mean, what's next? And I think it's a big question that requires introspection of what we all need to do individually, but also collectively, you know.
Yes.
And for me, of course, one starting point is the rules we have agreed to all take up, which a tracker is developed for weekly reporting. And I hope I'm not saying so much more than the coordinator of that, but I'm just saying it's a thing in the right direction. But more than that is to also see in practice that we take up that responsibility more seriously. So yes, The other is maybe we need to put in place some monitoring and evaluation system. So this is implementation we're going into, in my opinion. We have been designing, architecting, and then, producing a system. Now with implementation, you need to put in place a monitoring evaluation system that will kind of give you an idea of where you are, where do you want to be, and where it will eventually lead to, and then who to, and at what time. So key actors, key activities, time frames, and yeah. So I think some way we need to put that into motion or have it in place. For instance, when do we want to query data? It's a good question to ask, and how often, and who is responsible if a data does not come through from a facility? How do we even know? So many questions around how to monitor, and then eventually how to evaluate. So those are just some thoughts around next steps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kawu, for the frankness also. And I think that you are expressing something that I also feel, that in the sense that, like, if this is a football match, we are, really well positioned, and we have moved Professor Francesca right in front of the goal. And so she's standing there now to kick in the final shot. But if suddenly 9 out of the 11 players are leaving the field, then we will still lose. So we really need to know now what the strength is and the energy within our network. It's also something a little bit similar to, we have moved the VC on the table to kind of pronounce what we can do and where we can do from here. And we have built that table on 8, how do you call that? Supports. 8, how do you help me, Professor Francesca? A table is on?
Pillars or stands?
Yeah.
Stand on legs.
Legs, on 8 legs. So obviously, if now 6 out of the 8 legs are not there, then that is still causing a problem, even if we have done the most fantastic things in all of those presentations. So it's really a time for us to consolidate and to see what we really have and where the energy is, and whether everybody is still as enthusiastic as we have been. I mean, this is the time to be very enthusiastic because we have been successful. But then that also needs to show in clarity where we go from here together, and also in the energy really going into the deployment. However, we can go through these legs because we have Tigist here. So I'm actually quite interested to understand what is happening in Addis. And also we have Bernard here, which is good, on Zimbabwe, to understand what is happening in Zimbabwe. So maybe we can update on that. And Kawu, I register, and I think Puto will take a note of that, we need to come back on the discussion of the monitoring and evaluation system, and to really track through the strength of the system and what is still missing. But some of the countries are still not in deployment. So let's first follow up on that. And let me hand over to Tigist.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Prof. We are not yet start the deployment, as I send an email for Prof. Francesca. Wendimu and Ephraim are not around out of the city due to personal reasons, and there was no internet connections, family problem issues. So I hope they will join us in the coming week, and will continue. But the money, we understand that I heard the money is deposited at Addis Ababa University, but the computer procurement is not yet done. That's the problem, and we already select the data stewards from Black Lion hospitals, and Desta is the HMIS officer, and another IT personnel is selected, and we brief all necessary things for them and for the hospital CEO. We already informed them to start the the program and the VODAN, the objective of VODAN, and about the data. Already we introduced the objective of the project.
Good.
But we are waiting for the computer procurement. I hope, I don't know, are you going to procure for us and send deliver, or maybe if we have to buy from locally? It's not clear for me. But once Wendimu is back and Ephraim, they will come back in the coming weeks, and we'll update you.
Okay, so well, it is deposited to you, to Addis Ababa University. So I think the procurement will happen from your side.
Okay.
But it is good to hear that you have a plan, and I hope that Dr. Wendimu and Ephraim are well, and that
it's a personal problem. When Ephraim, his sister was in a coma for a couple of weeks, and she passed away last week, and he's living. The family is outside Addis. They have to they have to take the funeral ceremony outside Addis. That's why he's not come back yet. I hope he will come back next week. And Wendimu is also a personal reason he's out of Addis with no internet connection. That's why.
All right. Okay, Tigist, thank you for attending, and that is a clear update. So I think we can work with that. And then let's go to Dr. Bennett. Bennett, good to see you here.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you very much. The update that I'm having at the present moment is that Kodashi Ndos has managed to retain the clinical practice and has passed. And this is a prerequisite for him to be a principal investigator in this regard. And once that has been done, it means we are waiting for the Solidamet VODAN agreement to pass for us to get the clearance. And once we get the clearance, I think we are ready to go. So this is an update for Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Excellent. VODAN is ready. So the pressure is on Solidamet to identify whether they are ready.
Thank you. I'll remind to Ronald to make sure that they should be on it as quick as possible.
Yes, that would be excellent. That would be very good. And then I think Putu, maybe you can follow up with Liberia, with Julia Putu, to ask how that is going with the hospital there.
Okay, Prof. Miriam, I will follow up Julia today.
Yeah. Good. Then I want to go back to Reginald. What the mood is in under the country coordinators.
Hello, Professor. I think every country coordinator is facing pressure to be the deadlines. I know I had a good chat with Jamal about Somalia, And I think there are certain things that are at national level and how to function at national level vis-a-vis the local health facilities. So the advice was to counter-check with you and Professor Francisca, because there are certain things that are beyond maybe what the country coordinator can do, but requires another strategy, as Professor VC helped us to circumvent the one of Zimbabwe when we had an issue there. So it requires certain diplomacy. So I was hoping that Jamal would be here to share that. And then I think the whole issue also is there was been a level of fatigue a bit. So it comes in with trying to fulfill certain functions and then shortage of funds. I think that has also been the big issue here. Apart from that is the question that was raised by Kau when we have already deployed, the question always comes up, what's next? For example, Beacon of Hope and then Kemri in Kenya have been asking me through William and Seth, so what do we do next? So I keep encouraging them to continue doing exercises, keep practicing. That's the only way to keep soldiers not to riot. They have to keep marching, watering the flowers, so that everything is okay. So that's the language of the military. Other than that, I think that's where in summary, that's what I would say, Professor.
Can there be more? Maybe I can ask Ibrahim. I don't know if Dr. Ibrahim, if you are also fatigued, but can somebody give me an explanation of the what that means? Because we have also been traveling so much, so I can relate to that feeling. But we were also very excited because we could really see so many things coming up that can bring us in the next phase. But of course, the big question is, have we finished this phase? And I don't think this phase is finished. So my concern is that there's a lot of possibilities coming up, but we can only go there if we have actually properly delivered what we should have delivered already. So can somebody explain this a bit further to me? Dr. Ibrahim, how are you seeing the situation?
Yeah, I think Dr. Ibrahim maybe is in a noisy meeting, he did mention.
So, do you want to speak to that then, Kau?
Yeah, I think, yeah, what Dr. Regina may be saying was around getting everybody to meet up with expectations. So I think, but for Nigeria and Uganda, others are still trying to set up and deploy. So so the next step for them is to just really get that out of the way, you know. So I think that was very clear. He made that clear even in the last meeting, that we needed to be on the same page, so that when we are speaking as VODAN, it's not Nigeria, it's not Uganda, it's all the countries that make up Uganda, the VODAN. So I think that's what he meant by soldiers marching and those metaphors he used.
Mm. So Ibrahim is saying, yes, all countries need to brace up to the same pace. Also, we should try and hit all deliverables one by one. Yeah, I agree with that. So I think Nigeria is moving, yeah, like cup in hand. Nigeria is moving. I think Uganda is moving. I think Kenya is moving, so that is good. I hear that Zimbabwe is slow but moving, so that is good. We have heard apologies from and the reasons from Tigist, so that is good. Mekelle, of course, is good. Mekelle is fully implementing, so that is fine. So, and Tanzania, I think, is fine. So I think that that gives me a lot of confidence that we can have a timeline that over the summer, we have the deliverables implemented everywhere. And Dr. Ibrahim is also saying, let's see how we can contribute from the challenges faced by other team members. Overall, we are doing good and just need to see to making many deliverables out. Okay, I think that is an important conclusion, and I would see it the same way. Kau, the aggregate dashboard, is that one working?
Yes, yes, for most facilities, yes. In Nigeria, anyway, I'm able to speak.
Yeah.
So, yes, we had a few, but I think it's around the whole system, but they are being rectified working with Oluwole.
Good.
But good. So we can confidently say out of the 21 facilities, we have around 17 that are working, confirmed, verified, and all. Good. The other 3, they are in a different location, and so even when the technical support was a bit slow too.
Good.
Then we're on top of that. Yeah.
Good. Good. That is good. I'm glad to hear that. I think that Ibrahim, Dr. Ibrahim calls the big elephant in the room. He says, very importantly, money fatigue is also a pressing challenge. And I think Professor Francesca is also sensitive to that. But then I also want to ask the country coordinators, Dr. Reginald and the country coordinators, to pick up on the thought on that. Because if we take the analogy of my cake shop, we've done the recipes. VC and Professor Francesca, myself, we have rented, a beautiful shop, nice windows and so on. So how are we going to sell if we don't have the cakes there? So I think we are at this moment that the recipes are good. We've got the shop, but we must have the cakes. And I don't see how we can handle that. Ibrahim, with the delivery of some of that to be achieved, it will be sweet to have the cake soon. Yeah, we need to have the cakes. Yeah. So Ibrahim, are you with me on the analysis that our job now is to put the cakes in the window, and then of course for the leadership team to make sure that there is a succession plan from this current state, which is exactly what we have been working on, because we have worked on creating the recipes, the plan worked, we have tested it, then we went to deployment, then we have gone out and traveled the seas and the continents to make our connections and to come up with a plan. But you should also all understand that there's a lot of work in going to the next phase. And that next phase is only sensible if we get the cakes in the window. Otherwise, we have nothing to work with. So this is a very important time where the deliverables need to come in. We need to identify also some of the problems, and from all our side, we need to create the clarity on the next phase, which is why we have been making all of these presentations. Is this clear? And can everybody work with this?
Professor, I missed, did you say something? I missed that.
Yes, I was saying, VC, that so we produced the recipes of our cake shop, and we tested it, and the recipes are are brilliant, are really, really good. And we have made a few cakes now to make sure that these recipes really work. So Nigeria has done well, and Uganda and so on. So, and meanwhile, you and Professor Francesca and also myself, we have been setting up a big window, a big shop with a big window where we can put these cakes and where we now can start to sell. And so I'm saying that there might be fatigue, but unless we have the cakes in the windows, it is difficult to move ourselves to the phase where we sell. So I'm asking the team if we can overcome the fatigue by really the clarity that over this summer, we need to have the cake, so that then in parallel, Francesca, myself can work on the succession and bring the clarity of where we are going. VC, that is what I said.
Yeah, that's exactly. I wanted to join in there briefly. It's actually like we are on the finishing line of the first race. So if you give up and you have just a few meters to reach the finishing line, then we may lose. I mean, from our discussion at Leiden with Hans and the Field Cooperation Group, it was very clear that the foundation is excellent, and we have positioned ourselves. And so the next step is going to be highly dependent on finalization of where we are, and also trying to actually consolidate. I think what we need now is really consolidation, because the question that has been asked in all these networks, we've been trying to promote this cake. Now you're calling it a cake. Is what next? I mean, so what? I mean, and the answer to the so what is highly dependent on us redefining the other roles and trying to see if we can bring on board additional funding to be able to actually keep some of the people who are going to keep in the system. And we hope every one of us will be able to remain in the project, because if we don't do that, then it's like we have finished and yet we still have other races to run. So that is really the point I want to emphasize from what you just said.
Yeah, I think that in the analogy where we are is, I mean, so the recipes are good, they are tested and so on. So a few of us can now start a kind of baking from the kitchen outfit, or we can create a good shop, or we can create a large multinational chain. But what it will be really depends on the consolidation in this phase. So if we end up now just with a few, okay, then we reduce the scope to the few. If we end up with, the size that we have and where we feel that there is confidently, we can move forward with the 88 health facilities, the scope is a lot bigger. If we are ready to upscale, then of course we can bid for much larger projects. But the thing that cannot be solved is fatigue. Fatigue does not sell well. So we now really need to see the energy and moving to that place where we have finalized the deliverables. The financial situation is good. We have booked for Zimbabwe. We have transferred the money for Ethiopia. We have the reservation, and we have actually also transferred the money for Somalia. So all of the countries have had their tranches. We still also have additionals where we really have needs that we together assess like this. We really need to make sure to keep going. We of course have all of the second tranches of all of the everyone, the country coordinators, the data, everyone who hasn't had their second tranche of the contract, it's there. We have Frederick and myself and Francesca, we have done all the audits. The finances of VODAN are good and they are solid, and they can certainly get us through this phase. But the task is now the consolidation. So any further comments on this now? Kawu, do you want to respond, or maybe Mariam Basaja, who wants to respond?
After Miriam, maybe.
Mariam?
Yes, hello, hi. So I'll probably start by maybe giving a short update on what's happening in Uganda. And so basically we have successfully deployed in all 5 health facilities. We're left with Hoima Referral Hospital, and this is mainly because of the distance between among the health facilities which are in different districts. But we hope to have the one for Hoima delivered this week. And also, just like Abdullah mentioned, we've basically been giving some bit of small trainings. I've also had Zoom meetings with data management personnel, especially for CAS Clinic and KU, teaching them how to work around with the system and therefore be able to produce some data, which will basically be then moving to the next phase. And also, like suggested, I think the monitoring is necessary, especially for this phase. And I think that's mostly it with the updates from Uganda. And also the agreements have been signed. Most of the health facilities have returned signed agreements, except Liantonde, which is in progress.
Okay, Mariam, I'm a little bit conscious now of the time. So yes. I think this is all going well. That's good update. Let me use the final minutes because we are close to the hour. Also on the publishing update. Mariam, thank you. On the publishing update, we are now in the situation where Data Intelligence is publishing. They're publishing all of the articles that were approved for Data Intelligence and 2 of the 5 articles that were proposed outside Data Intelligence for some of the other journals. So there are only 3 articles that have been met with a rejection. Now, the publishing could start already this week. Last week, the email came, but we were very busy. But this week, I'm going to ask Luana to contact all of the authors and then to follow up with some small additional information that we still need to get the actual publishing. And that is a picture. It's very small stuff. A postal address, a postcode, a short biography, the ORCID number. You know, the ORCID number is the number that is online as a unique identifier of all researchers. So we will be getting back to you and ask that you return that as soon as you possibly can, so that the typesetting can start. And congratulations to all of us on this. Is a really excellent job. And I think that that means that we can also start with the second special issue as well. The ones that are rejected, I can put that privately. I'm not going to put it here, but I don't think it's any article of you, Kawu. All of the articles of the, I think they're outside the core VODAN team. So this okay, not something to worry about. That's it for the publishing. So we'll concentrate on that. I would like to really ask Tigist to keep making the plan for Addis is really important, the deployment Tigist in Addis. So we can also have a side meeting, or you can have with Professor Francesca on it, but that deployment to go over the summer is very important. I would like to encourage Dr. Bernard to really get clarity on the next phase with Solidarmed, so that over the summer really we deploy this as well. May I ask you, Kawu, to make a plan on the or the beginning of a plan on the monitoring and the evaluation of the data generation for the aggregate dashboard, Kawu. That's a really critical thing of the whole deliverable, on the basis of which we really know what we can offer for the next phase as well. Kawu, is that okay with you?
Yeah, okay.
Good. And then we have privately also discussed that we need to have some, really try to have some key publications. There have been Rudewan and Samson and Geto have been reflecting on that. I think the Mekelle team is not here because of connectivity, but they're certainly obviously working. Anyone else who wants to be within that group that outside the second special issue already moves ahead in key publications, let me know. And in addition to that, Mariam is working on her plan for the book. So that is all the work on the documentation side. And then I would like to propose that I go back myself to Jamal on the situation of Somalia, if that is okay, Francesca and VC. And then I will report back on how we move forward there. Yeah, you agree with that, Francesca?
Yeah, good say. Hauna paper rero kunyora VODAN zvichimoita tese.
Yeah, so I will move forward on the Somalia part. And Dr. Reginald, I understand that you are working with the Mekelle team on the country by country update of problems on implementation issues. Is that right?
That's right. So with the Putu, there's a form, Google documents, every to fill in for the following week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I hand over to Francesca and VC for the final closure of this session. May I just ask that in the next 2 weeks, we really try to be present so that we can, I understand that we have needed to make this transition from deployment. Then we were all over the globe with the presentations. Now we need to do our internal consolidation. So if in the next 2 weeks we can maximize the presence here, then we can also perhaps at some point decide how we make it smaller over the summer and what we can then expect as deliverables by the end of the summer, and including to give you clarity on the next steps. Francesca, VC, and myself will certainly consolidate that also then for these meetings to give everybody clear direction. So with that, thank you, everybody. Thank you for good discussion. Thank you also for being really frank and clear. I think is really, really helpful. And thank you too, because I know it is a long time, we have taken longer, but we have something that really speaks to very, very important needs that bring us into the next digital data-driven century. And we are in the forefront. We should try to remain in the forefront. And thank you all for doing your bit and your part to position us all together and collectively there, so that we can build the fruits of all of this hard work and start eating these cakes. And with that, let me hand over to you, Professor Francesca.
Thank you very much, Prof. In the interest of time, the VC will close. Just want to let the team know that you, the VC, and I will have to meet and then map out the program of what will be done during the summer, and then we have a actionable points and key deliverables, which will be communicated to the team. And to thank everyone for their presence and for the beautiful discussions we have had today. VC, sir, I'll kindly ask you to close the meeting formally.
Thank you so much, Professor Francisca and Miriam and the entire team. I think we have a good reason to celebrate, and this is going to compensate for our fatigue. I hope we shall all outlive it, but I think we maintain the spirit, and as you have rightly said, we should be able to meet and discuss, I think, the way forward, and also the issue of Jamal and the team from Somalia. We also need to have some additional discussions. So I'll be available, and thank you so much, all of you. It is all our victory, and we have a reason to celebrate in this summer. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Let's meet next week.
Okay, bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.